morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Another fine Wednesday morning here in the city of Philadelphia. Um, Looks like it snowed overnight, just a little bit, but we actually finally got some snow. Apparently, this is the first year in recorded history, that it has not snowed, during the 10 weeks of the least amount of light, during the year. That period between 5 weeks before and after the winter solstice. Um, and hey, congratulations, you survived that as well. So we're we're making out well, but global warming does seem to be having an effect. We didn't have uh, any snow. It's very odd. We have had snow every year I've been alive. And it's just a weird thing. I think maybe we need to worry about this stuff a little bit more, but I don't know. Perhaps I'm crazy. At any rate, we got a great show for you today. Let me pull up the title here. Um, let's see here. We're talking seeking peace and liberty, maybe a little bit of prosperity. We'll talk about the federal budget, the Philadelphia mayoral race, and Texas is deciding to rewrite history. Texas Governor Abbott randomly decided to pass a bill that removes women's suffrage, and Native American history from the required history curriculum for K through 12 students. And it's also cut the requirement to teach the history of white supremacy, including but not limited to the institution of slavery, the eugenics movement, and the Ku Klux Klan, and the ways in which it was morally wrong. What? um, I don't know. I think that's kind of an important part of history. I might be wrong. Uh, Again, it's happened before, but I'm pretty sure those are all important parts of history. At any rate, discussing all of that and the theater piece Tuck Everlasting, which will be coming up at Center Theater, as our special guest, Reva Stover. Let me bring Reva on screen. Welcome, Reva. How are you doing today? Please introduce yourself, your pronouns, what it is you do.
Hi, I'm doing great. I'm Reva Stover. I use she, they pronouns, and I am a director. I'm the co-artistic director at the Azuka Theater, as well as a playwright and lots of other things. But I today am the director of Tech Everlasting at the Center Theater.
Hold on one second. I can't hear you, although the audience can. So just give me 1 second to turn your monitor on. There we go. Try me now. Can I hear you?
Hi.
No, I can't hear you. Hold on 1 second.
Oh,
1 second. I don't know what's going on here. Let's see. Do 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 do. This is what happens with live production, folks. You get weird problems sometimes, and then you have to juggle to figure out what's going on. Let's see. All right, let's turn this one back on. All right, now can I hear you? Give me a little. No. Hmm. 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 Let's try that. Can I hear you now? No, I can't hear you. I can see you. I can maybe it's my headphone. All right. Well, let's try it that way. Can I hear you now? Yes, now I can hear you, but now that you have a bad echo because I have things set up wrong. All right. So, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with my headphones here. Um, and let me see if I can figure it out real quick. Try that, and let's just double check over here. All right. Should be able to hear you. If not, I know the workaround. So, Reva, tell us a little bit about Tuck Everlasting, and the Center Theater, and what we got coming up. Hold on a second, Reva. I'm sorry. I'm getting a note from my producer that we're not hearing you on our broadcast either, and I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. Um, it's not anything to do with you. It's something to do with me, and I don't know what's going on. Hang on one second. Let me try and figure this out. I apologize. Uh, strange. Um, one second. So weird. I see your audio in my broadcast. I see. Um, yeah, I see your audio there. I can see your audio coming in. I don't know what's going on. Hopefully, I'm just working with my associate producer Meg to figure this out. Oh, that's what the problem is. All right, let's try that again. Sorry about that. All right, I think I figured it out. Go ahead and,
Okay.
sorry, if you would reintroduce
Yeah.
yourself, um, and just start from the top of Tuck Everlasting. Tell us about Tuck Everlasting and what we got going on.
Yeah. I am the director for Talk Everlasting at the Center Theater. And Talk Everlasting is a musical based on a children's book, a very popular children's book of the same name that follows a young girl, a young 11-year-old girl, as she, runs away from home in search of something new, in search of adventure, and finds herself in the woods of her hometown, surrounded by lovely but very interesting and magical characters. It is a true carpe diem story where we're embracing this love of life and adventure and experience and finding the magic that already exists in the world, as well as finding that magic in community, which is why it's so exciting to be at the Center Theater for their kind of welcome back season with the new artistic director, Amina Robinson. So much life has been brought in to this theater and to the space as a whole that has been this really this integral marker of Norristown for so long. So it's really, really exciting to be telling this story as the first show in their welcome back season.
Let's talk about that just for a real quick second.
Yeah.
Norristown and the Center Theater, like a lot of people don't know, like don't know the Center Theater, don't know why it is relatively well known. But there's actually a small museum on the third floor, second floor,
Hmm.
um, and some interesting history to go along with the space. Why don't you talk a little bit about that for a sec?
I shouldn't talk
You shouldn't.
about, no, it shouldn't be me. I'm just directing this show. And so I'm really excited about what I have learned. There is a lot of community significance. I believe it's one of the oldest, if not the oldest theater in Norristown. But I don't have all of the details. I got all of my information from the very excited Amina Robinson, who's ADing this theater.
One of the things that I learned recently is that Center Theater, and when you enter Center Theater and when you enter the elevator, you'll see a large mural of Mark Twain. And the reason being that Mark Twain is kind of a mascot for the theater because he performed there. And so that's how old the theater is. And also some of the little interesting tidbit of history to it. At any rate, sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Oh, you're good.
I thought Amina might have shared that with you.
Oh,
Um,
she certainly had. Whether I remember it off the top of my head or not is a very different question.
Yeah, it's a really cool space. It's right across from the catty corner to the Norristown Transportation Center, so it's relatively easy to get to. And when is Tuck Everlasting coming up? When is the show coming up?
We open March 2nd, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very exciting. It's right around the bend. And then we'll be running through March.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it's really, really an exciting time and a show that I think you won't want to miss. And fun for the whole family, probably like 10 and up, would have a really, really lovely time
I,
at Tuck Everlasting.
I'm excited and also trepidatious because I'm TDing this show and whenever I TD a show, I always build in a lot of space for things to go wrong, and like just with the amount of illness and random things like from even post pandemic effects, like the availability of equipment is
Mhm.
all affecting this show from a technical standpoint and affecting every producer of everything right now. I think it's something that's quite interesting. I think it'll be interesting to see how we all deal with like this. It's really a changed environment from pre-pandemic, in my opinion. I don't know if it how it's been on the directorial side. From a technical
Yeah.
side, it's a really different world. Like it's even different working with crew again because you know crews all got used to a different pace, I guess you would say. And like the pace that we used to work at is not really acceptable anymore. Like you don't want to make people work for 12 or 14 hours straight.
Hmm.
um yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I definitely have seen and I'm also a producer, but from a director standpoint, I've absolutely seen a change in the energy of a rehearsal room and in the energy of a technical process and even in that pre-production stage where we're talking about budgets and what we can get done with the amount of money that we have. It seems that that money is not going as far as it once did,
Oh no,
because goods,
I
right? Goods are costing so much more. So when I hear my budget numbers, I'm like, I could have a 3-story set with this money and it's just not doing what it used to be doing, it's not going to stretch as far. And then also, absolutely, that not we're not asking people to stay overnight and give up their firstborn child to be able to build a set for a show, or asking actors to like stay up until they get it right. Because I think that the pandemic for the theater industry has shown us that we are people, that we're all human people. And even though we love this thing, we need to be treated like human people. And any theater person would scoff and sneer and say, you need to get out of that job if you were talking to somebody that worked in an office and they said, I was here for 15 hours. But because we're doing what we love, we didn't think too deeply about it. And having that time to reflect, I think, has really helped all of us in every facet, actors, directors, technicians, designers, to understand the value of our labor and that we're still valuable even when we don't give up all of our time to this labor. It doesn't make you love the thing any less. And I found that to be valuable as an individual artist, but also in watching my crew work, I think I get better work out of people because they're not overworked and underpaid and
Yeah.
exhausted all the time. So I've actually really enjoyed this new era of theater making where we're like, oh, you have children, you need to go home, you have to work, you need to eat, we need more breaks, I really appreciate that like human centered, compassionate lens that we're moving towards. It's not perfect, but we're on our way, and I'm glad for that.
Yeah, I think it's been a valuable change. I don't compare it with pre-pandemic production schedules in a saying it's a negative at all. Like
You know?
I think it's actually improved our work to a great extent. And yeah, exactly to your point. People, it shows that people are still valuable even when they're only actually giving 100%. Like, like
Right,
trying to get people to give 120% or whatever,
right.
just it's not worth it because they don't actually give more work at that point. It's still,
Yes.
the percentages still work out the same. You're just stretching it out and making it more
Yeah.
miserable. um
Precisely. Yes, that's exactly right. Exactly my thoughts.
yeah, yeah. um any surprises or um neat things that you've found in analyzing Tuck Everlasting, things that you want the
Gosh.
audience to know about before they come?
Yeah. I mean, that I want them to know about before they come, I don't know. I think
Maybe
that
little thing. I always find directors surprises to be the most interesting reason to attend a show. Like,
mhm,
there's been a production of Tuck Everlasting recently by Theater in the Axe. There's been, there's
mhm,
another production of Tuck Everlasting happening within like a month of our production of it. Like
mhm.
what's the
Yeah, what makes
angle?
mine stand
Yeah,
out?
what
Yeah.
makes yours special?
I think that in the 30 million times that I've read this script, the thing that stood out to me most was community. I've seen this show quite a few times. Obviously, I've read the show quite a few times. And I found that community was always lacking from this story. That is so much about this feeling of isolation and searching for companionship and community in other people and being seen. There is a strong lack of community that I plan to reinsert into this story. And in addition to that, me as a director, across my work, I am very focused on bringing the audience in to be a part of the world rather than a bystander on the outside. So you will be in true gap with us. You're going to be in the woods. You're going to be a part of the storytelling. Um, and I think that is also like just going to bring so much life into this story and this work. It's an incredibly diverse cast because I feel like this is a story that is for everyone and really about everyone. And this is the part that I was like, I don't know if this is like what I want them to know before they come, but I've made lots of discoveries in terms of what this show is saying about capitalism and our desire to pillage and take and be better than rather than existing in community. To me, this story is such a collectivist story about how we need people to be people. And so that's really what I'm looking to focus in on. And I haven't really seen a talk that is using those methods to tell that story. So yeah, it's going to be real anti-capitalist and it's going to be really fun. Glittery anti-capitalism.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I have a little cough still, apparently. But glittering anti-capitalism is a great way to describe it. I think that's kind of awesome. Um, let's talk momentarily about Amina.
Oh, I love
I always love Amina, and Amina is always like she's one of those people that's like kind of secretly in your corner sometimes. So I really appreciate when I get to work with Amina because I always feel cared for. But
Same.
uh Amina the Broadway World Awards were recently released and Amina like killed it. Um
Swept the categories.
yeah, right?
Yes, yes, you did. Yes, let's talk about how great Amina is. I could go on for days and hours. Amina is my like directing mentor and idol, and is just an incredible human person and a wonderful parent, and like the list goes on. There are never too many good things to say about Amina. She won for best play um, for Blood at the Root, and then I believe she also won for Schoolgirls.
She did.
Um, yeah, and I was like really excited because I was her assistant on Schoolgirls. So I was like, ah, I was a part of something magical that she did. Everything she does is magical though, so it's really no surprise to anyone that she won all of these categories because she just works with such integrity. She's so kind and warm and compassionate, but also the work is so clean and it's crafted in this way that really invites community and like collective understanding and collaboration. And she really honors the people that she works with and their skill sets. So I'm not surprised at all. I'm very excited for her because she deserves all of the magical things, all of them.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Um when talking about Broadway World Awards, I think it also behooves us to mention that Theater in the X was a big winner. All the nominations were uh, both interesting and diverse, I found.
Mhm.
I thought that the nominations for those awards this year were quite robust. And I was impressed by the winners and the whole show in its not show. What's the word I'm looking for? The whole I don't know. I was impressed by it not being an awards that seemed to as many awards seem to be just kind of you know who the winners are going to be before they're even
Right.
announced. Um, I was impressed that and by the quality of the those who were nominated and those who won as well. It seemed to be quite a much more robust award program than many awards programs have been in the past. Um, yeah, we of course have the Barrymores here in Philadelphia. We had like there's the Golden Globes that
Right.
honor theater nationwide, but tend to focus on really expensive theater and Broadway theater.
Hmm.
Um, and I found these particular awards just really heartening to see a lot of people that I work with and
Mm.
who are very talented, recognized. Um, at any rate,
Oh,
it was nice. It was nice. So look up the
absolutely.
folks should look up the Broadway World Awards if they haven't seen them or read them, and check out the folks that did win, and were even the folks that were nominated, because the I mean the caliber of work that people were nominated for is just as good as the folks that won. It's just, the folks that won, beat out the folks that didn't by mere points. Like we've been, Carlo Campbell, of course,
Mhm.
and Carlo was nominated for Richard III, and was upset that he didn't win over Amina, but also congratulatory of Amina. And I'm like, dude, you're on a level playing field with Amina Robinson, like,
Right. What a compliment to you.
you're here and
Mhm.
she's there, and like you're both just as good as each other. Just you're doing amazing work. Excuse me. So yeah, a lot of amazing
And
work
they did
being.
have some winners for Richard III.
Yeah, they did.
I believe Zahara, right?
Uh,
Z McGill, Mama Z,
yeah, yeah,
won.
yeah,
Shout out to Mama Z for being a star.
yeah. Mama Z
Um,
won for best supporting, I believe.
hmm
Yeah,
yeah, but you know, that's also him.
yeah.
So it's like, because it's such a collaborative art, we're all
It
working
is.
together to
It
make the thing
is.
happen.
Yeah, like one year for the Barrymores, the production company, I swept the awards that all of the production companies that were nominated, uh, that I was technical director for their shows, swept their awards.
Hmm.
And like I was like, like
Mhm.
that has as much to do with me as it does anybody else on the, like it has as much to do with who's the technical director, who's the producer, who's the sound and lighting and everything,
Mhm.
because if one department fails even a little bit, all the other departments look worse as a
Right,
result. So if, when folks win awards, it is not only, it's never a sole effort. Even, even a best actor award isn't a sole effort. You have to have really
right,
good other actors on stage with you, or if it's a solo piece, you have to have a really great director who's, pushing your performance to be that good.
right.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it is a super collaborative art. Um, at any rate, let's talk current events a little bit. Today is the first day of Black History Month. Um, yeah, yeah. Most of the time I'm black. Black History Month, I'm
Oh,
blackity black.
yes, I'm blacky black and I'm black, y'all. Correct.
um,
Yes.
yeah, so it's the first day of Black History Month. Um, I find it interesting, excuse my nose here. I find it interesting that Black History Month is interestingly when I usually, as a theater maker, get calls to
Mm,
some company somewhere, who's looking to
yes.
produce with
Black
black
something.
artists. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, some black somewhere. Yep. That's always how it goes. Always how it goes.
Um, and then I don't work with that company for the rest of the year. So, um,
And that's really the tricky bit, right? Is that it's like, well, I like money and I like making things and I want to make things. And it's not that Black artists are saying don't work with us in February. We're saying don't only work with us in February. Like, we do this quality of work all year round. We're available. We can work on things that are not expressly about Blackness or Black trauma. Like, it's possible. We're actually very good at it. So if you give us a shot, we'd love to try. And it's really frustrating, but it's also like, I know every February that the money will come in because
yeah,
it's February. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
It's really this double-edged sword that I didn't ask for.
I actually didn't get a call from a random company this year. I don't know if it's because I was super busy or
Maybe they're learning.
maybe. I
I doubt
I
it.
I have gotten a lot of leading up to Black History Month. I've gotten a lot more of the invites to be a technical director or a professor or adjunct of theater at random colleges around the country,
Me
which is
too.
oh yeah, I think that might be the
Oh,
new direction.
that's the new thing. They're like, we can't ask February 1st. We have to ask January 30th.
Right.
I'm like, okay, clever. Like, it's not better. We see you, but
It's all right.
oh my God. I was like, how sus is that? Very.
um,
Yeah,
I mean, I guess if they can't teach actual Black history, at least they'll have us teaching it. I don't.
right, profs. They'll
uh,
just stand there and be like, they'll ask you questions and you'll know things.
yeah,
They just expect you to know all the things about all the blacknesses that have ever existed ever. And then you've got it. We can't teach it, but you can just be it for
right,
them to look at.
right. I
It's a loophole.
we you and I, Reva, are kind of probably the exceptions to the general oeuvre of Black history. I think we're in um, relatively prominent positions in our industry, relatively recognizable people around town. Um, also, Philadelphia is a relatively a relative exception to like the general
Right,
of Black history around the country. I think
right.
you know like
Agreed.
we've had Black leadership in Philadelphia and for many generations, and we've had very strong Black leadership even even before the Black vote was allowed,
Mhm.
even before emancipation. And we've had recognition of that at all levels of our city for a long time, which made so this is kind of a weird aside. I didn't plan on talking about this, but it made the kind of pushback towards like black and nativist uh movements like getting rid of the Rizzo statue or like um
Mhm.
defunding the police. It made the pushback against those a little bit like surprising to me anyway.
Hmm.
I don't know.
From the city.
From the general residents of the city, like
Wow. Yeah. Okay. I don't think that I was surprised because while there is a history of Black leadership in Philadelphia, there's also a history of white supremacy that has been here for just as long. For as long as there have been colonists coming to, Pennsylvania, there has been a foundation of white supremacy. And so it's like, it's okay for you to be here and exist and have a microphone. It is not okay for you to try to push back on those systems of white supremacy. And I think it's even harder in places like Philadelphia, where it's like, oh, we're Black, people can do things and it's fine. And nobody worries about, because it's still there and it's been there. I mean, think about the Mummers Parade and how violently angry people get when you try to talk about how this is like nestled in this racist white supremacist system,
right.
or just removing the blackface, not even the whole parade, just the blackface. And they're like, they want to fight you, right? So I think that this culture of white supremacy has existed here and exists like a not so hidden underbelly underneath this Black empowerment that kind of permeates the city. And I think that Black empowerment permeates the city because of the violence, the force of violence that white supremacy uses in this city when it does not get its way or when it's threatened. Yeah.
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 Interesting. So again, this is gonna be a long aside. I'm now fascinated by this topic.
I
Um,
love it.
would you think then that that the black empowerment that has been, I mean, it's not been completely successful. I think that there's still a lot of black disempowerment and disinvestment from black communities in Philadelphia, even
Mhm.
with black leadership and you know, a lot of
Mhm.
black empowerment here. I think that there's a lot of disinvestment from those communities and from and continue and the structural and systemic issues are almost more entrenched because of that in a way. You know, like you know,
Yes.
we have a huge abolitionist movement in the population here. We have a huge
Hmm.
movement of a huge disinvest from policing movement and community policing investment, community support investment.
Right.
There's huge support from that from the majority, I think, of the population. Maybe it's just the circles I run in, but when I think even when you do polling on it, like the majority of the population is very much for investment in community care, investment in
Hmm.
community solutions to problems. Um, but as soon as you turn to the leadership, the black leadership of the city, you get like things like Council President Daryl Clark promising, you know, an extra $14 million for the police budget for the next year when somebody wasn't equipped with the taser properly and ended up shooting somebody. You know, like that doesn't make sense to me. Like, how many times do you have to say this cannot be trained away? How, like, I don't.
Yes. I have so many feelings and thoughts about this exact thing. And I think this goes back to the very contemporary conversation that we are having around Black police officers and how they're complicit in the white supremacist structure of policing. The same is true for our government and public officials. It is in very rare form that we find government officials that are actually working in the interest of the people. And I know I'm on here, I sound very radical, and I, I'm not. I don't mean to hide that at all. It's very rare that we find government officials that are actually working in the interest of the people. And even if they go into this system intending to work in the interest of the people, you cannot function in a system that is not built for that while trying to do that without
Oh
dismantling that
no, yeah,
system.
no. I mean,
You know?
I've had conversations with Jimmy Gauthier and you know Councilmember Brooks, um, uh, and Councilmember Thomas. I've had conversations with all of them, and they're like, you know, I went in trying to do this and that and
Mhm.
this, and you know, you end up running into the systemic problems
Mhm.
that can't be solved. And even when you like Councilmember Thomas's driving bill is like you would think like he wanted to pass a bill that you know everybody's able to take out a gun and shoot the person next to them every
Mhm.
day. You know, like
Mhm.
that's what you would think like by online
The
commentary
response.
that
Yeah.
and response that that's what he was aiming for. And the bill that got passed, the driver I forget what the title of it is, but it's basically a bill that de criminalizes some basic driving infractions. It makes
Mhm.
them not. It doesn't make the driving infractions. It doesn't remove them from existing. People can still get tickets for those things. It just
Right.
makes it so that it's not a primary reason to pull somebody over for, say, having an expired license plate. You know, um,
Yes.
or having a tinted window, or having something hanging from their rearview mirror. These are all
Right.
reasons, by the way, like all the things that were in that bill that were deprioritized are all things that have led up to the death of a black person. Like they are all literally things that have led up to the death of a black person. Why would that be a bad thing to like deprioritize? Like it I don't know. In my line of work, when I'm TDing something, when if something is a safety issue and like so like there's a lot about the film Rust
Mhm.
and the gun safety on sets and in
Right.
theater that same rule set applies anywhere
Mhm.
you're using weapons or prop weapons. um,
Mhm.
when something is a proven lead up or cause or contributor to the death of another person, as a technical director and concerned with people, all the people that I'm responsible for being alive at the end of the day, I will make sure that contributing factor cannot happen. Like there are
Right.
no live weapons on my sets. There is no live ammo on my sets.
Mhm.
And the even without live ammo and live weapons, still nobody but the actor and the armorer handles the weapons. And still, the armorer goes through their normal procedure. You don't point the weapon at another person. You don't point the weapon at anything that you cannot destroy.
Right.
Um, and I don't. I just. Like,
Seems simple.
yeah.
Seems very
I don't
simple.
know. Maybe it's that experience that leads me to say, like, wh-
No, I think I don't, because I think that is a universal one. I think most everyone is responsible for something that they care about deeply or someone that they care about deeply, that they would take extra measures to keep safe, right? So I think that anybody should be able to identify with this, trying to mitigate, even if it's your own person, trying to mitigate these risk factors. But I think it comes down to, for me, in watching the responses to these things, is that it's the same kind of sentiment as, well, they shouldn't have their student loan debt wiped away because I had to pay mine. That's more of what I'm seeing is happening in the uproar, because I want to believe that most people are not like, no, we want Black people to get shot in the street for having something hanging off their rearview mirror, right? Like, I don't think most people want that logically. But I think that the idea of, well, I got pulled over 4 different times and had to pay this ticket for and this fine for not having my license plate updated, right? So why should Sally Mae not have to do that, without considering that Sally Mae would still have to do that? Sally Mae would still get a ticket if she keeps driving around with a license plate that is expired. It's just creating this safety layer that I don't think people are hearing. I think they're only hearing, well, now you don't have to deal with that problem. And I've been having to deal with this for 50 years.
well,
That's, yeah.
I mean, what bothers me the most about the pushback on this is that it's usually something along the lines of, well, now gangsters can just drive the streets without worrying about being pulled over.
What?
Yeah, that's the kind of pushback
Oh, so
that.
it is racist.
Yes.
Okay. I was giving people the benefit of the doubt and I was wrong. Because I've just heard, like, oh, well, I had to pay this ticket when I was blah, blah, blah. But that's heinous. Actually, that's disgusting. For so many reasons. For so many reasons. One, if they're driving dangerously, they will be pulled over, or they should be pulled over, regardless of who is in the car, right?
Right,
I don't know
right.
why it's only specifically a problem that gangsters, what does that even mean? But gangsters
Well,
are
well,
not
you know
being,
what it means, and I know what it
I know what
means,
it
and Black
means.
History Month knows what it means, but the rest,
Like,
the
ew.
other 11 months of the year, we don't know what that
They're like,
means.
what? I'm like, gangsters,
Yeah.
really? Also, I'm like, the people that I'm concerned about not being pulled over are those people on dirt bikes that are super loud at like 2 a.m. Those are the people that I'm like, get those people off the street. And I'll tell you what, I still don't think that it should be able to be stopped for stupid things. I mean, if they're being reckless, which in my experience they often are, then you should be pulled over. Any other reason than that, if you're not being unsafe, leave those people alone.
Yeah,
Leave those
leave
people
people
alone,
alone.
all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, mind your business. We need to practice minding our own business, okay? Because they're not doing anything to you. Leave them alone.
I mean,
Or
it all funnels into the I there's a I don't know if it's a purposeful or who cultivates this, but there's a cultivation of an understanding of Philadelphia as a dangerous place,
Mhm,
regardless of whether it's about blackness or black people. There was tons in the media leading up to the NFC Championship, and in social media of, oh, when's South Philly gonna burn to the ground or whatever. Literally, even at the top of like the George Floyd protests, I live in the middle of South Philly, like in one of the most mixed neighborhoods there is. There are Vietnamese, Mexican, Italian, Polish, Irish, black, and all kinds of other residents that I probably didn't list off within like 100 feet of me. Like,
mhm,
I literally could walk outside and hear any language spoken and would not be surprised. Um,
mhm,
and there was no violence in South Philly, even at the height of like the violence was all uh, uh I forget the right word for it, but violence of people threatening violence,
mhm,
where you had people climbing on top of the Target in South Philly and protecting it with a gun,
yep,
or people marching up and down the street threatening to beat people up for being black, or like I rode a bicycle as a protection detail for a march, a peace march, and I had somebody try and literally run me over and spat on me because I was riding a bicycle and protecting a bunch of marchers by stopping traffic at an intersection.
mhm.
Um, he sideswiped me with his car and then spit on me, and I'm like, and we got cops, that aren't protecting the marchers, but
Oh yeah,
they're riding
protecting the
along.
Proud
And I'm
Boys.
like,
Oh yeah,
yo, you guys gonna do anything about these people literally
right.
assaulting people who aren't doing anything?
Oh, they're not. They're
No,
not.
no.
2020, I got the shit beat out of me, for lack of a better word. Like I got beat up a lot in those protests. And it wasn't from the other black people,
No.
it wasn't from the people that were there for the cause. So, let's just say that. I think also there's like this really interesting, like Philly is a little bit pro-violence. Like they laugh and cheer when Philly was practically destroyed when they won the Super Bowl, right?
Hmm.
It's, oh, that's just Philly and we're just excited and we're rowdy and ha ha ha. But when there's a problem, Philadelphians are still excited and rowdy, to get together and solve that issue.
Right.
But that is violent gathering. That's protest. But when we're burning down buildings and lighting up cars, random people's cars on the street, then this is all in the name of the Eagles. They
Yeah.
won the Phillies. It's not. And and when you look at those videos, who is predominantly burning stuff down when the Eagles win the Super Bowl?
I
Versus who is predominantly at these marches
I
saying,
I
"Please
gotta
stop killing
say,
us."
that there is definitely a cultural difference there. Like, I think all of us folks of color were brought up like you can't step out of line that far. You can
Exactly.
cause trouble and you can cause good trouble,
You can
but we
cause
were
good
we
trouble.
were we were all taught like, hey, you step out of line far enough, there ain't nothing that's gonna save you.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think I think that was ingrained in all of us coming up. I don't know a single person of color, of any shade of color, who can go, oh no, I'm just gonna go light up an FBI unmarked, or I'm like, and not expect consequences. Like, I think
Right.
I think the folks that are like, oh no, I'm gonna draw down on a cop, or like, like I expect that consequence at that point, but.
Yes,
Um,
yes, yes, 100%.
yeah,
I very much remember the many, and I am a big old nerd, and I have been a big old nerd my whole entire life. So like, I don't go outside if I don't have to go outside, you know? But I remember getting the talk about safety and blackness and like your personhood and what exactly that means. And I was like a straight A student and on the honor roll and like and national honor societies. I was like, this will never happen to me. It will, and it did multiple times.
yeah. I mean, I
Because
don't know
it's
how many black doctors and black lawyers
right.
and black police officers need to get, shot at or
Yes.
drawn down on or, pulled over before we believe it. But
We just accept that it's a thing that is happening to people, and we don't have to keep screaming and fighting for people to acknowledge the reality of the thing. Because until we get this like consensus that this is happening and it's a problem, which I think is really where the disconnect is right now, that it is a problem, we cannot solve the issue. Like we were talking about these systemic barriers that people are coming into these systems trying to make change. They hit these systemic walls and they're like, well, I can't change it. It can be changed. They can be changed, but it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to make some people maybe feel bad, but it needs to happen so that there is a universal safety that is not currently existing. But we have to fight through that discomfort, and I think that's our next step is accepting that it's a problem,
yeah.
that human people are being harmed regardless of their race. And so we should care because they're people. Um, we'll see. We'll see how long that takes.
Well, so the next Philly mayor is going to have to deal with these issues.
Oh yeah.
Our current Philly mayor has all but checked out as far
Mm-hmm.
as a lot of these issues are concerned. Definitely, he's not going to be rocking any boats or making any drastic changes before the end of his term. But we have a plethora of people running for Philly mayor. Do you have any favorites at the moment?
No, no. I'll be honest with you. I'm not I don't vote because it doesn't matter person, but I am very much at a place of like, does it matter? Like I know logically that it matters and I will be voting. But it is so overwhelming to put your faith and your hope in a person and then watch the system corrupt them because like a corrupt system corrupts absolutely. And so it's just like you say you're going to do these things, but are you going to do them? And so it's very difficult for me to put my faith in politicians, period.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a front runner. um I'm just waiting to see what they say next, you know in the hopes that somebody will say enough of the right things that I can confidently put my vote in them.
I tend to put my faith in not what somebody says they would do, but rather their
What they've done.
methodology. Not what
Mm-hmm.
they've done, not their track record, but really their approach.
Mm-hmm.
I find it more valuable to analyze somebody's approach and then because you're gonna change a lot of things.
Right.
You're gonna change your opinions. You're gonna change your understanding. You're gonna learn things. And if somebody can approach, has an approach that allows for that, then I'm more likely to believe that they're gonna and if their approach is based in caring about other people. I'm more
Mm-hmm.
likely to believe that they're going to do a good job. Nobody's going to do a perfect job. Nobody's going to,
Of
do
course.
everything that they
Fix
set
all of
out
the
to do.
problems.
Right.
Right.
But it's an approach thing. Like, how did Barack Obama approach the presidency versus how did Trump approach the presidency? And I think that's the root of the problem, and
Mm.
what we don't analyze enough in electoral politics is approach. Speaking on that, I'm
I
gonna
love
I'm
that.
gonna throw my favorite person in here. Right. Still, my favorite person running for mayor right now is Rebecca Reihart.
Mm.
She was the comptroller of Philadelphia for the last several
Mm.
years. Um,
Mhm.
and her approach is very analytical, which, being a technical director, I appreciate. So, technical directors, producers, we all tend to be very analytical as we approach a project. And you look at things, you look at systems, and you go, are they working? Are they not working? What is
Mhm.
working about them? What isn't working about them? How can we save a few bucks and also get this done better?
Right.
And that's I think that approach
Okay,
is,
Rebecca.
yeah.
Eh,
um, I unfortunately think that she probably doesn't have enough name recognition to actually win.
mhm.
And she doesn't have the best campaign so far. Um,
Mhm.
Jeff Brown, he's the owner of the shop North Philly ShopRite franchises. And
That's not right.
he's very well respected in the North Philly community because his working conditions are pretty good, and he offers pretty good salary.
Nice.
But he is, and I predicted this back in the end of the pandemic, or at the beginning of the pandemic, rather, when Philadelphia, and also with the soda tax. So Philadelphia instituted the soda tax. Jeff Brown was
Mhm.
against it. Philadelphia instituted, masking. Jeff Brown was against it. Even way back then, I saw kind of the like Republican leanings of Jeff Brown, and I would still call him, a dino. I don't think that he's running as a Democrat just because he is a Democrat. I think he's running as a Democrat because that's the only way you win elections in Philadelphia. But that's
Mhm.
neither here nor there.
Accurate.
um, all right, it's 11:01. Um, if you got a sec, I just want to touch on the federal budget.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, federal budget. We're artists. We get a lot of our money from the government. Not nearly enough, I don't think. But
No, not
uh,
nearly enough at all.
I think all us artists need to be prepared for the onslaught that is the Republican-run House of Representatives.
Mm.
They are already really mad at the budget for some reason, even though they refuse to release one themselves. So in budget negotiations so far, President Office of the President usually has the first serve, and they usually send a budget document to the Congress, and then the Congress just completely ignores it and writes their own. Um, but trying to short circuit that and also avoid the debt ceiling argument. Um, the president has said to Congress, "Hey, why don't you guys tell me what your budget priorities are, and I will try and figure out, on your behalf, something that maybe kind of approaches a middle ground." Um, anyway, um, and the Republicans have been re- recalcitrant, um, not willing to do that really. They've not been willing to really present a budget or budget options or anything like that. And I know you're familiar with this, doing production
Mm.
and also, directing.
Mm.
We can't move anywhere until we have at least a conversation about budget. And
Okay.
when somebody's like, "Hey, you can't do this. We need to lower the budget." You kind of go, "Okay."
I don't- what do you suggest?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. I am very worried as a theater maker on a lot of different levels, like as an artistic director of a theater that relies on government funding for a large portion of our producing ability. It is very scary because we've seen before and probably will see again here that the arts is one of the first things to have funding pulled. We really need this money. As an industry, we really need this money, especially coming off of the back of the pandemic and seeing that audiences are not coming back to the theater in the ways that they were before. Not that they're not coming back, they're still coming, but not in droves as they once were. And so that's really putting a weird place on most people's bottom line that is only being supplemented through grants.
It,
Um,
it's
yeah,
also, the government spending on the arts is there's a lot of effort amongst government officials to try and return to normal, whatever that means. But
yeah, whatever.
there's a lot of effort in that, and the arts is kind of, I would say, the spearhead of a return to normal. You
Hmm.
have restaurants and stuff, and restaurants will survive whether or not people are going out every day.
Right,
Um, but if you want to see the arts, are most arts are experienced best in person. Yes, we digitize art and we broadcast art and we put it on the internet. And yes, it's great for accessibility, but also most arts, especially theater, music, etc., are
hmm,
experienced best in person. Um, so we're at the forefront of that pandemic recovery. Getting
right,
people out requires there to be art being presented.
right,
Even if they're not coming out in the same numbers as they were before. Right now,
right,
unless we buoy the arts industry, you don't have a chance to recover from the
right,
pandemic.
right. There's no sense of normalcy without entertainment and escapism. Because regardless of the era that we're looking at, there has been like collective trauma in some way, the Great Depression, the Spanish flu, the list goes on and on and on. And there is always this resurgence of entertainment that precedes this return to normalcy or what is the new normal, because we need that escapism to be able to go on with our lives after the trauma that we've endured, whatever that is. This generation of people, maybe more so than ever, is desperately in need of that escapism and that ability to like mediate between reality and this kind of like healthy sense of escapism, because there's been a lot to escape from in the last 10 years alone. There's been a lot that we need to escape from. And so without that, I don't know, like as a person who makes art, but also goes to an office and like has a regular job, it without the art component of that thing, not just the art that I make, but also the art that I consume on YouTube, going to see shows, hearing live music, I don't know that I would make it through to continue to go to my 9 to 5 job every day. Like it would become incredibly overwhelming to just continue on as if all of this has not happened.
And
So it's imperative that we stay, that
yeah,
we
I,
be,
I I
as you
think it
said, the
is
art.
too. And I think that I don't know why this has always been the case, but since the Republican neo-republicanism of like Limbaugh and
Mm-hmm.
Newt Gingrich, one of the easiest attacks that Republicans have always been making against the budget and against federal spending is this. Now they're calling it an anti-woke agenda. It's not anti-woke. It's anti-intellectualism. It's anti-art. It's anti-exposure.
Which is anti-woke, not in the way that they think it is,
Right,
but it really is this effort to stamp out conversations of change,
right.
which art is one to do, and intellectualism and study and research and books are one to incite these questions of why is this thing the way that it is, and how could we possibly make it better. And I think that they really don't want that, because making things better would be relieving them of the power that they are so tightly clinging to. Um, Even if it's not all of the power, it's some of the power, and I don't think they're interested in relinquishing any of it. So
Yeah.
that's it. Literally is an anti woke agenda in that they're like, don't learn things. You don't need to know things. It's like I think maybe we do. I think maybe we do.
um,
So
to round this back to talking about Tuck, I think that is kind of the point of art. Like we're talking about in life. It's important to look at information that you have in front of you and take and try and find a new angle on it, and constantly be revisiting what you
mm,
know, and what you know to be true. And I think that coming to see a play, even if you've seen it before, even if it's been produced recently, even if there's like 3,000 different interpretations of it, it's important to come see it and come see, something like Tuck, um, reinterpreted by a different set of artists, because
mm,
you have a different thought process going into it, and you're going to get a different message coming out of it.
yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to work on this piece that is really all about community, and so much of what we've talked about here comes back to investing in community and investing in one another, and hopefully trying to build a world that we can all live in peacefully and happily together. And so, if you're interested in singing and dancing and clapping along, I encourage you to come out and see Tuck, and bring your community with you, because I think you'll all gain something new and different from having experienced it together. So yeah,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being my guest today.
thank you.
And I hope everybody comes out to see Tuck Everlasting at Center Theater, March 2nd through the 18th, I believe, or something like that. March 2nd to start. We posted it in comments earlier, but and on
Come see
screen,
it.
and I've forgotten already. Um, However, do come see it, please. It is a fantastic space, and it is a fantastic show, with a lot of artists that I love working with, contributing to the production. So thanks for joining us today. I'm going to go to a one up of me. If you got a sec, stick around. I'll talk to you after. And I'm gonna just outro the show. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a lovely time.
All right. And thanks everyone for joining me every week. I know from statistics and looking at what happens with our broadcasts that a lot of you guys watch it in replay. Feel free to catch us live, comment, and on the broadcast as it's happening, and you can participate that way. You can get some participation, if you have a thought, and want to voice it. You can bring that to the conversation. If you like what you've seen, please don't hesitate to subscribe to us on Patreon, on YouTube, on Facebook, on we're also on Twitch and Twitter. And we go out live to all those places every Wednesday at 10 a.m. And if you want to support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Lightleaf Productions. We have memberships for as little as $1 a month. $5 a month gets you some extra access to some behind the scenes and upcoming events news. Let us know what you want to see. And tune in next week. We will have more of the current events and chat that you like. And we'll have a special guest for you. We have not yet figured out who, but we will have that news as soon as we can. And so enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. Talk to you next week.